Hold your head up high. Mr. Govan matters. You can't do this to people just for political gain because you gotta solve a crime because somebody famous died. It's just wrong.
Okay, the Hernandez Govan case, the prosecution and the defense is rested. It's to the jury. The judge has given her instructions, I think, or maybe she's going to give them in the morning. But the case is basically over, other than waiting for the verdict. I put together, I think, a pretty good highlight reel of this pretty short trial, 3 days.
This entire case is going to come down to the guy with the machine gun that shot off Adolph Fortin. The whole case is going to come down to him and then possibly his girlfriend backing up his story. Remember, Cornelius Smith has made at least 5 different statements to law enforcement over the course of the year where everything changes. He's then met with the prosecution at least 5 or 6 times to go over his testimony prior to testifying here today. So you should ask yourself the question when the judge instructed you, does somebody have a reason to lie? Do they have an interest in the outcome? You are caught red-handed on video, and you're about to see it in a second, taking an AK-47 or lighting it up at a cookie store in broad daylight. He's facing a mandatory life sentence, as I'm going to question him about. And I ask each and every one of you, what would you do if you were facing a mandatory life sentence to get out of it? Why would you need to make so many different statements if you were telling the truth? Because remember, the truth is the truth. You don't need to practice it. You don't need to remember it. It's the truth. You know what they call their investigation? Operation Cookie Monster. That's how tasteful this whole thing has gotten with these folks.
I think that the defense, Manny Arroyo, who was kind of a famous lawyer out of Atlanta, who I think got himself appointed because Hernandez Govan was declared indigent, as many people are. He got himself appointed, and so he's getting paid by the state.
Quet lives in the poorest part of Memphis in Orange Mountain, sells a few ecstasy pills to make a living, and hustles with sports gambling. He's a nobody, and that's why I asked you about the peers. He's a throwaway that they can blame. So let's see who the government has got in bed with to try to prove their case against Hernandez Govan.
When you met him, under what circumstances were you meeting him?
I met him through an individual named Bobby. Buy pills at the time. I was just buying pills from him.
And would that be Bobby Carter?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were buying pills from Mr. Govan?
Yes, ma'am.
And what kind of pills were you buying from Mr. Govan?
Ecstasy and sometimes Percocet pills, oxycodone.
Would you say, why were you buying pills from him?
Because I popped pills. I was popping pills at the time.
Okay.
That was my drug of choice, pills.
So the man you have to believe is the man who's capable of, in broad daylight, carrying an AK-47, going into a store full of people, and just, without hesitation, opening fire. And he's the one that's going to tell you that Mr. Govan did this, this, and this. Nothing that he says can be validated. The other thing the government's going to try to talk to you about is cell phone tower records. The expert that the government may call, or if they don't call him, I'll call him, will tell you tower records are inherently unreliable because it's not like on TV. There's a reason why all the engineers from the cell phone providers, T-Mobile, AT&T, specifically write their letters. They will not testify in court because of unreliability. The other thing you have to know, and Robert put up the slide, within a 10 square mile area of where all this happened, there are 553 T-Mobile towers. 553 just from T-Mobile.
I think he did a very good job. It is it depends. If you believe Cornelius Smith, then even then it's not a slam dunk. Cornelius Smith is a very easy guy to not want to believe, but now they've already put Straight Drop in prison for life. There was other evidence against him. Hernandez Govan, there's nothing tying him to the white Mercedes that was used in the crime. Yes, it was found across the street from his house. So you got to realize these guys are all bums. Like, well, I mean, Hernandez is a semi-bum, and he's a bum who sells stuff out of his house. So he's got some outfits, and he knows some people. So he got some pictures with some rappers, but he lives in Orange Mound and sells drugs out of his house. Orange Mound is a bad neighborhood and a bad city. I mean, not a bad city, a dangerous city. So rough neighborhood and a rough city, right? If you're making any type of money, you get another apartment and then you come to Orange Mound to sell your little drugs out of your house. But he lived there too, I guess.
Are you testifying to this jury that Cornelius, prior to Dolph being killed, told you that he was going to do it?
He was telling me about meetings that they had, conversations that they had.
Okay. You're his girlfriend, and what did you think those meetings were about?
I didn't say you're on the house to speculate.
What did he tell you about these meetings prior to the murder?
He was just saying that they want to put a hit out on Dolph.
And that was okay with you as his
I
girlfriend?
didn't take it serious because at the time, Hernandez was popping pills really bad.
Jook was not going to give the $100,000 to Govan, who then took his 20 cut and gave each of them 40. They had to all get the money from Jook afterwards. And then after Jook paid straight drop and Cornelius, they were each supposed to give Govan Hernandez Govan $10,000. That's a weird. As someone, I ain't never middleman a homicide, but when you middleman, little transactions like, your boy pull up and you like, okay, he outside, and they give you the money, and if it's $10.50 and you're charging them $11.50, you get $11.50 and you put the 100 in your pocket and go on the car with your boy and you get the bow and put it under your shirt and go back inside. You take your 100. You don't, oh, give me 100 ad. That's just not, that sounds weird. And now, as you can see from that was a snippet of one of the 6 times, probably one of the early times that Cornelius spoke with the police. So 6 times he spoke with the police, and then a bunch of times he's spoken with the prosecution, the state, which is separate from the police, the prosecutors, to prepare. So he's had a lot of conversations, and there's been a lot of discrepancies in things he said. Now, a guy's probably a high school dropout with a D-rug problem. Just because he has discrepancies doesn't mean he's lying. He might just not be used to remembering anything properly, but he definitely, if I was a juror, I could see feeling like, I don't want to send someone to prison for life based on this guy's testimony. And mind you, there are people, straight drops, rotting in prison. I mean, he's being punished for Dolph's murder. Cornelius has not pled guilty to anything yet. They're waiting to see how much help he gives them. But he ain't got no... Cornelius definitely didn't interact with any Yo Gotti or has any information to give on this ephemeral Yo Gotti CMG Rico we all are imagining.
Man, what's good, man? What's up? Man, I appreciate it, man. My brother ain't been fucking with me, niggas fucked up, man. I appreciate you. Shit, it's all good, man. What y'all doing tonight?
Jook apparently had a bounty out on PRE Wu and a bunch of people, and they were all different prices. Dolph had 100, which isn't that much. I wonder if he even thought it was going to get filled. Probably not. PRE Wu, I don't even know who that is. He had 50,000, maybe because he had shot somebody in CMG. And the reason I put that clip of the music video at the beginning, that's of one of my favorite Dolph songs, Baller Alert. That's the end. That's the little skit. So that guy with the CMF shirt, well, that, of course, is supposed to be Jook, and that guy actually kind of looks sort of like Jook. And they're playing him like a real bitch in the video. Jook, could have had his own animosity towards Dolph.
It was one day me and Angela was out riding, and I wanted some X pills, so I went to Quay House to get the X pills from him, and Jook was over there. And when I walked in, there was one quick told Juke, this little C right here, and mine, Juke was like, he done out on. First, he said, take all the phones outside, you know. He ain't say my phone, he was saying quit phone, but I passed my phone to make it feel comfortable. So, took the phones outside, and Juke was like, hit him out of here, get him, and he got us. And I can't recall like exactly when it was, but that's what he said.
So the state just told you to your face that Mr. Govan picked out two desperate people. Cornelius Smith, if you are to believe him, says in his statement, I just happened to be going by Quet's house, Govan's house, to buy some ecstasy pills with my girlfriend. Juke happened to be there. It doesn't say Quet said a word. Juke says there's a hate on everybody, and I got you, and Juke says, take the phones outside while I caught you. Assuming you believe any of that's true. And the reason I ask you if you think any of that's true is the police never went to question Juke, aka Antipas, or Yogai, or any of the people with CMG. Never once even tried to do an interview. If Cornelius Smith and Angel Alvaro had repeatedly told you all that Juke was the one that was calling the shots, I think even in your report you guys said Juke's the mastermind, that would cause you to go interview Juke, because that's an important piece of information, right?
Doing the investigation, yes.
Right. But as lead detective, at no point during the investigation did we attempt to talk to Juke.
We hadn't made it that far, no.
We hadn't made it that far. Okay, it's been 4 years, and we know Juke died 2.5 years after the case. We know everybody had already been indicted within a few months of the arrest taking place, but we never went to talk to Juke, even after Cornelius and Angel repeatedly said he was the mastermind. I think that's the phrase you guys use. Continuing your Operation Cookie Monster slide, sorry.
But I am going to object to this. My question is it relevant?
Of course it's relevant. He's a suspect. This is all before the Q stuff that I played through you earlier. When they first asked you what's happening, you said it's coming from a higher power, and you paused and you thought about it. They didn't say, does it start with a J? Where does he live? What did he do? First words out of your mouth was, Juke did this, right?
Yeah.
All right, keep playing it.
And it came from you. No. Who told you that? Who's he? So he said it came from Juke. Juke being who? Because we want to make sure we're talking about the same Juke. Unfortunately, there's more than one Juke. CMG meaning your guy's brother, Juke?
Yeah.
So when they asked you 2, maybe 3 times, it's Juke, CMG, Juke set all this stuff up. I know we've been talking about these meetings at Govan's house, but when it came down to it, Juke's giving the orders, Juke's paying, Juke's doing everything. That's what Cornelius told you, right?
No, but when you said he said he told you.
Yeah, that's where it came from.
All right, so again, when they ask you, where did the order come from? Who told in? Who was going to do that? It's always Juke, right?
Yeah, that's what his name is.
All right. And so the meetings, does Cornelius use the word meeting a lot with you? Or was he just over at Govan's house to buy pills and hang out with his friend?
A lot of time I was at work, so him going over there, a lot of times I wasn't around, but the couple of times that I took him over there, he was buying pills.
Okay. So this is as plain as day. Juke said do it. Quet didn't say anything. Quet lives in the poorest part of Memphis in Orange Mountain. Sells a few ecstasy pills to make a living and hustles with sports gambling. He's a nobody, and that's why I asked you about the peers. He's a throwaway that they can blame. Why did they not talk to Juke or anybody else with CMG? Ever. Now, Juke ended up getting killed in 2024, 2.5 years after the fact. Never arrested, never talked to, never interviewed, never pursued, never surveilled, nothing.
The individual you described as Juke, is he on the left or right of this photo?
From my angle, he's on the right, the big guy, right on the right.
He's on the right. And the individual on the left, who is that?
That's quick.
And Juke is the person, do you know his government name?
No, now since I've been locked up, Anthony Mills.
Cornelius seemed to have spent his life on foot or catching rides. A sad commentary on just the poverty of everyone in this. You know, he shot, Dolph's brother shot him in straight drop when they killed Dolph. Nobody had there was no underground doctor. Like, this is not organized crime, right? It's not like, oh, I'm hit. He's got a doctor that works off the books. There's none of that. He's riding around shot. His first interaction with Hernandez Govan, he asked him for some pills. His life revolves around pills. Ecstasy pills, and, well, they're calling them Percocets, but I'm sure he couldn't afford that. He was getting the counterfeits. So he taking no pills and X pills that ain't X. Because if he's getting the cheap ones, well, they're meth pills. And so he's on Vedi and meth. You can pill for him. And after they take out Dolph, he asks Hernandez for some pill. He ain't got none. So he gives him $40 so he can go somewhere else and get some pizzelles. He stops and gets a single cigarette. Mind you, all this is happening on Cornelius, a.k.a. Cornbread's daughter's birthday. As has been already talked about, he got a couple $100 out of the deal, basically. Straight Drop got paid. He was flashing the money in his video. But this isn't about that. Hernandez, so this much vaunted, he's the mastermind. Well, I can see why the judge had let Hernandez Govan out on bail pending the case, because part of the consideration for bail is, how strong the case is. And it's a case with evidence, but it's certainly, I would not be shocked for the jury to come back not guilty on the first-degree murder conspiracy.
Previously mentioned that you all were kind of on a hunt.
Right.
When you go hunting, you have guns.
Right.
Did you have a gun?
Justin Johnson already had the guns in the car. Prior to me getting in, they was already in the car.
Did you all have masks?
Yes, ma'am. I had my own mask, my own gloves, and Justin Johnson had his own mask and gloves.
At some point, did you put these masks and gloves on?
Yes, ma'am. Once Justin grabbed something out of that white SUV, we proceeded on heading towards Westwood area. And as we got to Lamar Airways at the light, Young Dolph come driving by. They come driving across the light. And we spotted the car. We were like, there they go. And we proceeded to trail them.
With regards to the money first, are you testifying to this jury that Cornelius, prior to Dolph being killed, told you that he was going to do it?
He was telling me about meetings that they had, conversations that they had.
Okay. You're his girlfriend, and what did you think those meetings were about?
I didn't say you're on the house to speculate.
What did he tell you about these meetings prior to the murder?
He was just saying that they want to put a hit out on Dolph.
And that was okay with you as his
I
girlfriend?
didn't take it serious because at the time, Hernandez was popping pills really bad.
Okay. Cornelius has lied to you a lot over your relationship, has he not?
Yeah.
All right. And you've had domestic violence issues?
Yes.
He's stolen your TVs and sold them? He's taken your guns and sold them, right? The 9mm handguns. Is there any chance he used those guns as part of the shooting? Cornelius took your guns, and you don't know how many times he may have used those, right?
I don't.
You do know that he pulled a gun on his child's mother sometime during your relationship?
But back to Hernandez Govan. Why didn't so this black detective, he retired. I had this other white detective cut in here, but he was kind of, what he was asking him about was kind of boring. But the white detective had to admit that this black detective that we just see testifying, the black detective had been the lead detective. He retired during the case. The white detective and the other ones, they're like, well, yeah, he retired, but I don't remember when. How do you not know when the lead detective of the case retired? And you hear the black detective said, oh, we never got around to interviewing Jook. Jook was alive for 2 years after Dolph. What were you guys doing? Remember, they got the girlfriend, Angela, whatever, said right in the beginning, came from up higher, it was Jook. She didn't say Q or Quet paid my boyfriend. She said Jook. Later on, after they've made so many statements, it became Quet. It was initially said to be Jook. I think there's a good chance Quet may have technically violated the conspiracy law by making some introduction and mentioning some hits. So if he gets found guilty, I don't feel like it's a big injustice. But if he gets found not guilty, I don't either. Because I think he was not the mastermind. Jook met some people over at the dope house. Straight Drop was with it. That was Jook's part. I think he was with it just trying to get into CMG and launch his career. You see, he dropped a damn video on the day he went to jail, flexing the money he got for killing Dolph. This is dark side of the force activities, like for real. Dark voodoo spirits have overtaken hip-hop. It's all murder.
What Cornelius will tell you, which the government didn't tell you, is that morning, it was Cornelius's daughter's birthday. But he gets a call from Justin Johnson that says, I got a car, let's go do something. They get in the car and they start driving around just looking for somebody to kill. They just happened to see Young Dolph's car going by. And they opened fire. And they killed him. And the interesting thing is, even though nobody communicated with Govan for weeks prior to this, they didn't talk to him that morning. He didn't help them get the car. He didn't help them escape. He didn't tell them what to do. He didn't tell them where to go. He didn't do anything. It was a spontaneous issue between two young men that morning. They shot him. And you know why there's no plan? Because they just start calling random people after the shooting. They don't call Govan. They have to go someplace to get bandaged up as far as that goes. The people that help them never been charged as accessories to anything.
So this was, as the defense attorney says, doesn't seem too masterminded or well planned out.
The judge also told you, when you assess credibility, you need to look at how well you remember this thing. Cornelius Smith cannot even tell you when he was propositioned to go kill somebody. The shooting happened in November 17, 2021, and the best the police can say is that meeting, where just randomly happened, as Cornelius himself has said, was sometime between August and September, 3 months prior to the shooting taking place. 3 months. He will tell you there's no plan. All he was told by Jerk was there's a price on their heads. And that's kind of funny because when the cops, if they testified honestly, will tell you there have been multiple attempts on Mr. Dolph's life. Twice in Charlotte, my other folks, and once in Los Angeles. Everybody in Memphis knew there was a price on their head because there was a war between PRE and CMG. They were shooting each other. Yo Gotti's car was shot up here. The song 100 Shots came up after one of these things. There's a rivalry going on and people have been shooting. The police went through this. They know this. They also pulled YouTube videos where people are openly threatening to kill Dolph. It's in their slideshow.
This act of actually getting Dolph at Makita's cookies which the police have referred to as Operation Cookie Monster, which seems kind of disrespectful. That was the name. That's the name of the investigation. Big folder, Operation Cookie Monster. It's kind of, I don't know, but I guess you got to name it something. Now, CMG as a label had been trying to kill Dolph. As we know, I've done in stories and everyone knows, several people convicted on one occasion in Charlotte of trying to kill him. The guy, Keon, he just did 7 or 8 years in North Carolina prison for that. And that guy was employed by CMG. Then in the other Charlotte shooting, black youngster had rented the van that was used, but he had reported it stolen, and he got out of that. And then in L.A., when they shot him right on Hollywood Boulevard and had the guy that did it, Dolph just refused to identify him. And that guy was a CMG employee, and Gotti was like there. So CMG as a label had been trying to kill Dolph, but in this particular incident, I mean, I don't know, no one that's alive can connect Gotti to it, I don't think. And Jook could have done it on his own. Now let's talk about Big Jook. The mystery of his murder is really, at this point, what's interesting, because we know who the 2 shooters were, obviously, and we're going to find out, well, we know what Hernandez, he's sort of involved, but just to take a detour, according to interviews with different people, Hernandez Govan, or I'm sorry, Big Jook liked to gamble and not pay the bill, like in the hood in Memphis. Some people he had been to prison before for a coke conspiracy, like him and Cocaine Music Group, CMG. I mean, they really were in the street at some point, could still have been, because what's the difference between Gotti and Dolph's cash flow? Dolph probably had a better cash flow, but Gotti had played the corporate game where he probably had he had more loans, financial backing, which is fine. Dolph was making a lot of money. Dolph seemed like had a lean, mean machine as far as his business, and he has a lot of videos with a lot of views. Dolph was very popular. Dolph was making money. Gotti had tried to freeze him out. He wanted there to be one person in Memphis. What does freeze somebody out? What does blackball mean? Well, even in this digital age, you gotta do radio appearances where you get interviewed. There's still events, teen parties, nightclubs where they're doing what are called live broadcasts, where they have the local DJ playing at an event. And when you're trying to break a record in the region and around the country, you need to know these programming directors. You need to be able to get the DJs to play it. Yes, people listen to stuff mostly on digital, but the radio stuff is still to go to the next level. So think about all these rappers you may like. A lot of the Detroit rappers I like. You kind of get stuck at a certain, if you gotta get into the radio and into some corporate, and then also into the corporate sponsorship world, or I'm performing at the Sprite, hip hop tour this summer. And Dolph was able to do that stuff on his own. He figured out the contacts, and then you got to have the money to pay. Dolph probably really was doing street stuff, because listen, I used to do all the music videos in Detroit. I know how the breaking records things work. You got to pay them DJs to play it. You got to pay to be on those Spotify playlists. Rap Caviar, all that stuff. It's all, people got to like what you're doing, but it has to be supported with money, significant amounts. Gotti was frustrated that Dolph was able to end around him, and Dolph was doing his thing. But this was it was a running kill order on Dolph, which is crazy. How could he have not known this, though? Or it had been going on so long he was used to it? I mean, he should have been moved. If they would have just had a tail car, which does not require like some expensive trained security, just two of the homeboys, one that can carry a gun that's in a different car. He already got his brother with him at his personal bodyguard. And you just always have somebody, wherever you stop and go in, somebody, the two guys, they standing outside. I'm used to that, where when it's that type of situations, there's always somebody, you got the people with you, and then there's somebody that's going to stay outside and watch the road. So anyone that pulls up, like, oh, there's Dolph's car, it's two people standing there. You try to pull in, they going to hit you before you hit them. You have to have your security in layers. They don't have to be the greatest security in the world. You just need it layered. You need an outer layer so that someone can't just get up on you, which is what happened. Maybe it'd been going. I don't think Dolph should have been in Memphis. And if there's if Cornelius's dumb girlfriend with her Ross for Less clothing on, her dollar store outfit that she wore to court, and I ain't trying to be mean, I'm just saying it is sad. It's a lot of poor, like the poorest people killed, a guy that was a self-made multimillionaire from music. He may have also made money in the street, but a guy that did it on his own, and that's why people like Dolph music, and they like the story. Dolph, for whatever reason, I like Dolph a lot, unlike a lot of these rappers, so I cared about this case.
They left the car and across the street from Govan's house on the middle of the street, in front of the street. So if there's some master plan, that may be one of the dumbest plans you could possibly have if you're going to kill the most important person, the most famous person in Memphis, as far as that goes. Again, there were no phone contacts for weeks prior to the shooting, especially in the morning. Govan wouldn't know that the Mercedes was used. The only way anybody finds out is social media blows up right away. And multiple people start calling Justin Johnson, including Govan, who knows him. Because the word's out that Justin may have done this. Trayon Ingram is another word you'll hear. He actually carjacked the white Mercedes and then gave it to these gentlemen to use in the shooting. He's not charged in this case. He's not even charged for the carjacking. But he happened to pick up another murder right after this happened, and so now he's in custody for the other murder that he committed. I'm sorry, my arm is shaking because I'm so furious that we're here as far as the trial goes. So the other thing the government hasn't told you when we talk about first impressions is, for weeks prior to the November 17, 2021 shooting, nobody called Govan, talked to him, did anything, be it Justin Johnson or Cornelius Smith. I thought about going over at least one of Cornelius's statements in his lives, but I think it's just a little too much. We would be here for about 2 hours going through everything that he said. It's been inconsistent, bald-faced lies. In fact, you know how somebody's lying? Because in his first interview, that lasted a little over an hour, 32 times he told the police, "Trust me, I promise, I swear to God, I wouldn't lie to you." 32 times he says that before answering one of his questions on one of his first interviews after he's caught. And after he's caught, his girlfriend gets questioned because they ran down the license plate numbers, all that stuff with the cars. She lies through her teeth on December 14th of 2021, said, "I don't know nothing about nothing." Because Cornelius had talked to her and tried to make up a false alibi. See, where's the plan in all this? See, if I have a plan to go kill somebody, we have a place to go ditch something far away. I have people that can cover for me as an alibi. I don't make random phone calls. And so Angela, who knew nothing about this, according to her, picks them up at the location where they're getting bandaged up for being shot, drives them around town, helps them out. Of course, she's not charged. She initially lies and denies everything. The police then come back and said, "We're going to charge you if you don't tell us the truth." And so on the 17th of December, 3 days later, she comes back. But what the police don't know at that time is Mr. Cornelius Smith has called 4 of his family members to reach out to Angela to get the story straight. As he keeps saying on the video phone calls, "Find out what she said. Find out what she said. Find out what she said." And then on the 17th, it comes back, and they're talking to her. And she says, well, we went over to that house sometime in the past, just like we talked about. She doesn't know anybody. She said, I can't think of his name. And the interesting part is, the officers say, is it somebody named Q? And then she says, oh yeah, it's Quet. Remember the phrase Bobby Carter that they mentioned? Bobby Carter also lives on Bradley Avenue. They're good friends with Cornelius Smith. They buy pills together. They do ecstasy pills together. And the other thing Angela Smith says is, Govan brought us the phone after the fact. How was that part of any clan or anything else? They called and said, give me a phone. The interesting thing about that is if it's true and you believe her, there would be fingerprints on the car. The police fingerprinted it, DNA'd it, did everything. Cornelius' fingerprints are there. Treon England's fingerprints are there. Kirsten Varner, the other guy that worked with Treon to seal the car, his fingerprints are there. There's DNA in there. There's blood in there. But nothing with regards to go there. They found the car 3 days after the shooting took place across the street from Mr. Govan's house. Has nothing to do with them, didn't touch it. So if he didn't do that, how does he open the door? And frankly, how do you get the keys to open the door? See, Cornelius doesn't give you the details. Did they lock the car after he left? No. Where were the keys? He doesn't know about any of that stuff. So tell me how Mr. Govan got into the car and how he did it so beautifully, being dumb enough to take the murder car of one of the most famous people and say, let's just park it across the street, and then somehow magically wiped his prints, DNA, hair, anything out of that car while he's looking for the phone. You know why that is? Because he didn't do it. What you're going to hear from Treon Ingram is Treon Ingram, when he stole the car, left his backpack, his wallet, and some other things in the car, and he had Justin Johnson go get them. You will hear that from Treon Ingram's own statement with regards to that car. This is why I talk about first impressions, because they're always could be misleading, and in this case, patently false. When you cherry pick the evidence that you want to tell you, and then have the cameras rolling on a high-profile case to pressure you to commit a verdict of guilty, is patently unfair. And just because he's a nobody and doesn't have money, like Gotti or Jook, his brother, who would never even questioned or charged, he's the follow die on all this stuff. He didn't do anything. Even if you believe Cornelius, all he says is, I just happened to show up there, and he says, we'll see. Jook took over and started doing all the talking. Do you think that man could pay somebody $100,000 and you'd say, yeah, he's good for it. I don't need any validation. He's good for it. Cornelius' story also changes along with Angela's, because initially we were supposed to be paid $1.5 million. But then after another interview, it became $1 million. Then it became $500,000. Then it became $100,000. Then it became, we're going to split $100,000 between me and Justin Johnson. Then it became, somebody gave me $50,000 in a brown paper bag. Then it became, oh no, I'm wrong about that. It was after I was arrested, somebody gave my lawyer $38,000 in a bag to represent me. That's how many times the story shifted. Is after I got the money from Mr. Jerk's people, it was understood that he was on that team. Again, Jerk never arrested, never talked to, even though he says that's where the money's coming from. That guy doesn't have $1 million or $100,000 or anything like that. I may walk around wearing fancy ties, but he's indifferent. John has found that. I'm here to help him, because people that are labeled as nobodies, I will not tolerate this. He needs to be fought for. He is your peer. We need to do this right. Mr. Govan, stand up. And Mr. Cornelius Smith is going to get up here and tell you, I want to bare my soul, I want to come clean, I want to do all this other stuff. You know, I call BS on that heart, because when he tells you that, and he will, because he testified to it before, that he wants to bare his soul, he wants to make amends. Then ask yourself, why for 4 years didn't he just take a guilty plea and take his life sentence and start making amends? He still hasn't pledged anything. His lawyer's in negotiations with the government. There's, quote, no deal, but you know, we do good things out of our heart when we're caught dead, red-handed, murdering somebody, because we don't want any benefit by coming on the stage and telling you whatever you guys want to hear. 6 times with interviews, 6 potentially more times with the government, more interviews. The truth doesn't change. You don't have to remember it. You don't have to practice it. You don't have to rehearse it. It is what it is. And this is not the truth. I think I mentioned it in jury selection, but responsibility for your actions goes both ways. There's going to be a lot lacking in this case. For example, you'll hear about a lot of cell phone records and who may have called who. But the full-on analysis was never, well, I'll just leave that for the expert. It's all coming down to Cornelius and possibly where somebody's phone might have been. You don't know what they said, if they even talked, or if as a friend you're calling somebody after a shooting, because everybody starts calling everybody within minutes after this, as social media blew up after this happened. You all know it. You all heard it. Everybody knew about it. Govan is your peer. He deserves better. We shouldn't be here. High profile TV cameras or not, sympathy for a young man who's a musician, whatever he was. Nobody deserves to die. But you don't compound the problem by blaming innocent people for it. And even if you don't want to believe he's innocent and you want to believe Cornelius, they sure as heck didn't prove the case beyond reasonable doubt. I talked to you guys about that, like the British did. It's either guilty or they didn't prove it. So I'm asking you to at least at a minimum say you didn't prove it in about 3 or 4 days from now. Thank you.
First-degree murder charges are the most frequently to be found not guilty. But you put somebody away for the rest of their life, you know, that's something you have to live with. So there's Manny Arroyo's lawyer doing a good job pointing. Hernandez, like this mastermind title, he's just an older version of Straight Drop and Cornelius Smith. Like, he's not Jook. He's not someone that's on a higher economic and other state in the street life. I mean, who the hell heard of, I'm going to hook up a hit, and then you guys get paid? See, think about this. So all he can give them, he gave them Straight Drop, and now Hernandez Govan, and then they're going to sentence him. The more people he gets convicted, the more benefit he has. Now, as you can see from that snippet there, that soundbite, that was an early interrogation, kind of vague, like he comes over and he's introduced to Jook, and then like Jook may have taken it from there. And an important thing is, for 2 weeks leading up to the successful hit on Dolph, there was no phone calls between Straight Drop, Cornelius to Hernandez on the phones that the police know about, of course, which is an important caveat. As the evidence is presented, even from Cornelius, the guy telling this story, he does not say, we got a call, Hernandez had a car for us and guns. They had to get their own guns. The car, that white Mercedes, a different young guy, gang member or whatever, carjacked some women for that car, like some middle-aged women, like near, maybe not in Memphis, maybe in some outlying city, and caught a homicide on someone else, and he gave Straight Drop. So these are just wild, these are the wild young guys of the streets. They robbing, they killing. Oh, we got a stolen car. I carjacked this bitch here. You can use it. So Straight Drop called Cornelius that morning and said, I got a car. I'm going to pick you up. So they're just riding because they've been told by Jook and Hernandez. I mean, Hernandez Govan probably said, there's a bounty out. Do you want to send him to life for prison because he told him there was a bounty? I mean, maybe that's technically makes you guilty, but like this is dying out. Like this is the end days of this. Like, between all the indictments and everyone killing each other, people are either chilling out. Like, we know a lot of different rappers is hot. They've kind of fallen back because it's too much. Like, it's everywhere you go, you got to move militant, and it's not worth it. Like back in the day when 50 Cent had what he had was going on, but he was spending a couple million a year on security and real security, or when Takashi was able to, where you could just be like, here's 8 guys and they're like ex-military and I'm gonna just pay the fee. But if every day you gotta coordinate, someone gotta ride me with a gun, and then you gotta have some people in the chase car to stand outside, like I said, it's just a lot. It's a lot. Is it worth it? Who killed Big Jook, though? Is the question I'm still left with. I think it's a high probability Dolph and some people in CMG. Not Gotti, but maybe Jook. Because remember, the money there ain't that much money. Like CMG ain't Jay-Z. There's not billions of dollars. You can see how Jook would be getting just enough of a taste. Because take it from me. You can, you're making 15 or 20,000 a month, but if you're moving in circles where people are making $1 million and you're hanging with the athletes and your brother Joe Gotti, that could feel like nothing. So you're messing around in the streets. Dolph was too. Who knows? They could have had common drug thing. It's just, you just don't know. The Jook thing is weird. He's killed at the repast after the funeral. That was a smooth operation. Was that CMG people? All them years later? I mean, PRE people all those years later? Or was it some other thing that was going on? And I'm going to leave you with this. You see how the police seemed in this. That black officer. How do you... He was the lead before he retired. Jook is told to you in the very beginning, right? Your first interview with the girl. Mind you, like Jook and Gotti weren't going to submit to be questioned, but they didn't. He said we didn't get around to it. They didn't even attempt. Because you never know. You might be able to pull over Jook and he got a gun and some drugs on him and you can pressure. I mean, you got to try, right? That cop didn't say, oh, well, and his lawyer, and so we just didn't bother. It's made it seem like they didn't even attempt. So Memphis is a city that's just big, like Memphis is about the same size as Detroit, similar demographics. Take it from me, definitely police in Detroit that would protect, not all, but you only need some, is this investigation, was it somewhat compromised? Was Quet's name pushed up and Jook's pushed back as a way to protect Yo Gotti, who has his benefactors or hooks into some police officer? That's not probably very far-fetched. And who executed? Seems like Jook's murder was a little more well executed than a lot of these murders, these PRE CMG murders of just these young guys shooting each other. Seemed a little more. These were either professional hitters. Who sent them? Were they police officers? Let me tell you something. It's a long time ago. I mean, I know that it was I'm pretty sure it's my friend's uncle who was from a family that's like a known Detroit name, been in a newspaper for gangster stuff over years. Uncle, his father's brother, gunned down in the driveway of his house in my area, my neighborhood, by a person with a certain name. My father kind of grew up with the person with that certain name, and I mentioned that to him sometime, and he was shocked. Why was it so shocking? Well, the person, and I'm not going to say the name because his family is in politics, he was an active duty police officer. He was murder for hire as a police officer in my area, and he's not the only one who did stuff like that. Very high crime cities all have troubled police departments. They go hand in hand. You cannot have very high crime cities without, and doesn't mean everyone in a police department is bad. Often the police departments are troubled because they're underfunded, but an underfunded police department in a high crime city is the devil's playground for a cop that wants to do stuff on the side. And in a city like Memphis, it's not a place people are moving to. It's in stasis. Highly like Detroit, pretty much everyone there has been there and has got some type of kinship tie. You know, everybody's connected. Not everybody, but a lot of people are connected to each other, to family, or went to school together. It's not like you're in LA where it's just all these people, or Atlanta where everyone's from somewhere else. Everyone's from there and they're connected to each other. So those are the type of situations where a police officer could have personal ties with people doing other stuff. Just seems strange to me, but Hernandez Govan may well get a not guilty. I mean, Cornelius, if you really pay it, you know, the defense attorney did I think, a very good job. I think there's reasonable doubt. I think there were some conversations Hernandez shouldn't have had. And like I said, if you convict him, maybe it's not an injustice. But if you don't convict him, it's definitely not an injustice. So watch who you introduce people to. Watch little things you say. They could come back to haunt you as you mentioned one, you know, I'm careful with that. When people used to come from Detroit and LA and introducing people, they do some type of large drug deal. I did introduce them. I'm not in the middle of the whole thing. I really don't know what they're doing, but you could easily put me in a conspiracy just for introducing them. But sad Dolph was killed by people that smoke loose cigarettes. And it was so retarded. He didn't even get paid. I don't think Juck may have not been planning on playing. None of them guys, they FaceTimed him right after. And he was like, oh, yeah, I'll get with you after I wake up and get done with my kids or something. Like, dog, we just killed Young Dolph, bro. Like, meet me with my money. Like, right, like now. Like, fuck your kids. Like, get up, get them kids to somebody, and bring us our 100,000. We just murdered Young Dolph in broad daylight, buddy. And we're both shot. They both caught one. Cornelius was worse to straight drives, but they each got hit a little bit. Well, Cornelius got hit for real and was given $40 to go to a different dope house to get some pills. And then I think they eventually got him some type of wound kit or something. Something was mentioned about some hits out. Cornelius and Straight Drop developed their own relationship. Straight Drop was direct with Juck, even if Cornelius wasn't. Months passed. Straight Drop pops up with this stolen Mercedes, says, let's ride. Let's just look for one of these people that's got a bounty on them. And oh, there's the camouflage Lambo. And there's no one outside. There's no outer layer of security. This is our chance. So I'm going to put it at, I'm going to give a 60% chance he's not guilty. So I'm going to give a slight, if I was betting, I might give you 3-2. If you put up $200 for Govan to be guilty, I'd give you $300. So the trial's over. What do you think it's going to be? I think I put together a pretty good, at least we know what the prosecution's evidence was. I think I put together a good highlight reel of the defenses. And I think you did a good job. Our Prophet America Dope.